Carolina's agricultural roots run deep. For centuries, this land has been a vital part of America's farming landscape. From early Native American settlement, who cultivated the land with ancient methods, to European settlers who brought new crops and farming techniques, agriculture has always been at the heart of North Carolina's economy and culture. Today, our state's agricultural sector is a testament to the resilience and innovation of farmers who've integrated advanced technologies like precision agriculture, drones, and data analytics, enhancing the efficiency and optimizing the use of their resources. Crop diversification and market expansion have become crucial strategies, allowing farmers to mitigate risks and explore new opportunities. But it's not just about the crops. Agriculture in North Carolina supports thousands of jobs, and it's a critical part of our state's economy. This sector contributes billions annually, underpinning the livelihoods of countless families. As we listen to the stories of dozens of North Carolinians, we'll see how those deep agricultural roots are both a strength and a challenge as we learn about the obstacles along the way, like the high input costs, regulatory burdens, energy and housing expenses. We'll explore how current economic pressures and changes in the agricultural landscape impact those who grow our food and those who struggle to access it.
What I really love about North Carolina is the people, especially the people from this church. My husband died about 5 years after we moved here. I don't have any family, but they just rallied around me. My dad was in the Navy and we moved around so much. Traveling is not a big priority anymore in my life.
I feel like North Carolina has like everything. There's mountains, there's beaches, there's like small towns and big cities and everything in between. So you could come to North Carolina and really get a taste of really anything.
Oh, I moved to North Carolina 50 years ago for the people. And the privilege of being a pediatrician is that people tell you their story. They tell you things that they wouldn't tell their closest friends. And it's a privileged position to be in, to actually hear what people think about, what they worry about, what they hope about, what they dream about.
Oh, I love North Carolina. I love the temperature year-round, and I love that there's 2 seasons. So I love to see that it keeps growing.
I think farmers are some of the most resilient people you could ever meet. It takes a certain amount of heart and hope to believe that you're going to be able to plow your land, plant your crop, that you're going to get adequate amounts of rain, you're not going to have drought, and you're going to be able to bring that crop to market and people are going to want to buy it. It's a really resilient population and one that we don't appreciate as much as we ought to.
Well, North Carolina is a primarily farming business state, and we're number one in a lot of agricultural products, and one of those is pork, but it's this large-scale pork. People don't really understand that their food comes from an actual farmer. They just know that it comes from a grocery store. And what we do, we focus a lot on business to consumer, and we have a retail store, so we really have that genuine interaction with the customer about where the food is coming from.
I'm Donna King, Carolina Journal's editor-in-chief. With years of experience in journalism and a deep connection to North Carolina, I'm honored to guide you through Sowing Resilience, a documentary that explores the strengths and vulnerabilities of North Carolina's food systems. As a lifelong resident of North Carolina and a dedicated journalist, I've witnessed firsthand the resilience and ingenuity of our farmers, the challenges faced by consumers, and the complexities of our food system. Together, we'll hear the stories of dozens of North Carolinians and understand the role of lawmakers and explore some solutions in the ongoing effort to keep our food systems resilient. The COVID-19 pandemic and the uncertainty created by broad and often arbitrary executive orders were a stress test for North Carolina's agricultural sector, revealing both its strengths and its vulnerabilities. Farmers faced immense pressures as supply chains were disrupted, labor became scarce, and markets changed overnight. Yet their resilience and ingenuity shone through as they adapted to these unprecedented challenges.
I am officially declaring a national emergency.
More than 80 million Americans now told to stay at home.
The U.S. Embassy in Beijing confirms the first American death.
First responders are scrambling to keep up with the surge in new COVID patients.
More than 1 million new daily COVID cases on average for the first time since the pandemic began.
We mark a tragic milestone here in the United States. 1 million COVID deaths.
I don't know if it was handled correctly. There was a lot of panic, but I think it took a long time for us to get somewhat back on track when I didn't think it should have taken that long. I think people use COVID as an excuse. You know, our kids missed a lot of school. I think that's concerning, and I don't think that we've seen the total effects of that yet. It might be years to come before we see total effects of that. Certainly a lot of people got sick, people lost their lives. I understand, but I'm not sure that we as a country handled it as well as we should have.
I was in college before and during COVID, and you know, prices were definitely not where they are now. It would definitely be difficult for me as a college student to try to navigate the situation now, as far as like how much groceries are, trying to decide, do I pay my rent this month or do I get a decent amount of groceries?
Well, I was at NC State when the pandemic first hit. I was still helping my parents around at the store, working when I could between classes, coming home, helping my father catch animals and such. It has definitely affected the price of goods and to produce those goods. Our feed prices and pretty much every other price point that we use in our business has gone up exponentially since the pandemic, and I think that food security is a big part of that.
It was devastating for some farmers. People are over the pandemic, but they're not over the fact that they want to know that they have a safe, secure supply of food.
Well, during the pandemic, it was definitely tough. Still working 50 hours out the week, still not being able to provide for them like I should have been. There were times we had to stand in the lines in the school, and the schools were offering hot meals to the kids morning, noon, and in the evening. There were times we had to go to churches. There were times when we didn't have anything. There were those times, and there were times I had to cry out of shame in the room by myself because I couldn't do what I needed to do for my kids.
Our food service was certainly disrupted some from COVID, but I think the state and all producers and growers probably did a really good job to keep that moving forward because, you know, all your farms had to continue to work. You couldn't stop.
The pandemic was hard on us, but it was also a blessing for us. Our business took off, and we were selling more than we'd ever sold before because the grocery stores had empty shelves, and people were coming in that had never shopped with us before.
I think consumer behavior shifted quickly, which I thought was really interesting. So it was cool for us to see that consumers are willing to pivot and do something else for a period of time. But more than anything, I think we learned as a nation that our meat processing is too concentrated in a couple of really big operations, and that carries a lot of risk from a resiliency standpoint, which we're addressing now. I mean, I think from a government standpoint, investing in meat processing is probably a good idea.
During the pandemic, for some reason, some of the processing plants had to stop processing. I think some of the supply chain issues caused the flow to stop. When they run off the rails, it was a terrible wreck.
The pandemic showed us that some unforeseen catastrophe would ripple through the food system very, very quickly.
During the pandemic, we've added a grocery giveaway once a week where people can literally drive through and be handed a box or boxes of food staples. And that's a very nice sort of low interaction opportunity for people who feel bashful or embarrassed about asking for help. And then we've also begun creating food boxes that we deliver to households that we've moved from homelessness back to housing.
And it seemed to be the shelves were a little bit more empty, I think, during COVID than they are now. Definitely. I think supply chain issues, too, were probably impacted during the COVID time, yeah.
The pandemic highlighted critical weaknesses in our food system, as well as the perils of unpredictable and frequently evolving regulations and the restraints on free enterprise. Supply chain disruptions left shelves empty, and exposed the fragility of our food distribution networks. Labor shortages became bottlenecks in processing facilities, and the economic fallout increased food insecurity for so many North Carolinians. But out of these challenges came important lessons. We saw the need for a more resilient and adaptable food system, one that can withstand the shocks and continue to provide for everyone. The experiences during COVID-19 have pushed us to innovate and rethink how we produce, distribute, and consume food.
It's clear that ensuring food security requires a comprehensive approach. We need to support our farmers with better policies, invest in technology, and create stronger connections between producers and consumers. These steps are crucial to building a more resilient food system. First, we need to strengthen our supply chains. By diversifying our sources and developing local supply chains, we can reduce our dependency on limited suppliers and enhance resilience against global disruptions. Second, labor force stability is crucial. Implementing policies utilizing technology to automate labor-intensive processes will ensure efficient production and what our farmers grow actually makes it to market. Third, addressing food security and access is essential. Food pantries and emergency assistance programs are vital to providing food assistance to vulnerable populations. They are valuable partners in developing initiatives to tackle food deserts and improving access to nutritious food in underserved areas. Fourth, regulations should make sense and help rather than hinder our farmers and consumers. Simplifying regulations and removing barriers during crises will reduce their burden. And finally, lowering the cost of housing and energy, given those are two major external factors squeezing family budgets and making it more difficult to afford food.
By addressing these issues, we can build a robust food system that works for all North Carolinians. Stay with us in the next chapter as we dive deeper into the current agricultural landscape and its economic significance.